Hello everyone, I'm Santiago and today I'm gonna be testing the entire Batman Arkham franchise. I'm skipping over Arkham Origins Blackgate, which is a 2D game, a 3D game with a side-scrolling camera perspective. I don't know, it's just not interesting to me at all, so we're going to be testing Arkham Asylum, Arkham Knight, Arkham City and Arkham Origins, so keep that in mind. Check the description if you want to skip to any of those games. So I'll be starting with Arkham Asylum. This is the first one in the franchise and this one runs fantastically well. You can do 4K with physics on at 60 frames per second. There is a lot of slowdown when moving through areas, which you can avoid by disabling physics if you don't mind about those features, which personally I think is a little bit redundant, but you can enable them if you want. And yeah, overall 60 frames. I think it's locked to 62 because there's a setting in a config file. But if you want more frames, you can edit the config file, disable the smooth frame rate, and save it as read only. There's a guide about that in the description. And I'll see you again on Batman Arkham City.
Anyone out there seen Batman yet? No? Not surprised. He's chicken. Mr. J has won again. Mr. J is so going to beat Bat Brain, he doesn't stand a chance.
Keep your trap shut. You won't get away with this.
Harvey's got the old man up top. You see the bat or anyone else skulking around, he dies.
You took longer than I thought.
He's out of control. He's trying to prove something.
You will not escape me again.
So now we're testing Batman Arkham City, one of my favorite ones in the franchise. And this one ran pretty bad when it released back then. It was one of the first ones to have DX11 features. And I still do not recommend to enable DX11 on this one. Make sure to disable that. The rest, put it on extreme and do not enable physics. I don't know what they did with this game, but it runs terribly bad if you enable those features. It doesn't fully utilize the GPU. So my advice is to keep it like I show you in this video, and there's still a lot of slowdown when flying around. Not sure how the game is loading the assets when you're moving around, but it says between 62 and 50, it has a lot of fluctuation. You can also unlock the frame rate, which I do not recommend because it will stutter even more. I mean, not stuttering in a way, it's like it has a big slowdown depending on where you're going and where you're flying into. But you can do it by editing config files, but again, a 60 frames per second target is recommended. You can do 4K just fine, so I recommend doing so. And I'll talk to you again on Batman Arkham Origins.
Strangers up in his nice warm tower. Bastard. Just broke free and slashed.
It's the bat!
It's Batman! You were right! It is the bat! You don't stand a chance!
Arkham City!
We'll make...
We'll make sure this hurts you back! I'll kill you, freak!
Sure he don't get out, okay?
So now I'm testing Batman Arkham Origins, and this one is one of the good ones, at least in my opinion. Many people hated it, saying it's the worst in the franchise, and I disagree. I really like the combat on this one and the villains that we fight. So on this one, again, 4K, we have more than enough GPU power to do so, and you can keep physics on normal, but I had to lower the ambient occlusion to normal as well. I think it still looks pretty good, and you get a massive FPS boost. What you'll notice throughout my gameplay is that when I defeat the last enemy, there's a slowdown below 60 frames per second. That's because there's depth of field going on when you are defeating the last one. So it doesn't affect the gameplay at all. It only happens when you're not controlling the game. So my advice is to just ignore that or use a lower resolution if it bothers you. Otherwise, 4K is fine, looks pretty good, very fluid, and I highly recommend you check it out. And I'll talk to you again on Arkham Knight.
All units getting calls about a disturbance. Stand by for location.
He's here! Get a clear shot! Take his ass down!
guy!
And finally, Batman Arkham Knight. This one I made a separate video which you can find in the description. I tested 1080p, 1440p, 1800p and 4K. And in this video I'll be focusing on 1080p with physics or Gameworks better said, and 1440p with the highest settings. So if you want to see 4K, 1800p and all that good stuff, check the link in the description for the full video. Otherwise, 1080p and 1440p just fine, over 60 all the time. Some stutter every once in a while when driving around and shooting other vehicles, but fighting in the streets runs completely fine. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to not enable Gameworks unless you're playing Arkham Origins or Arkham Asylum. Otherwise you should be good to go. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys.
Left that ain't been looted? We're getting bored. Man, this whole city's a mess. We need Joker back. He get everybody in line. Back up! It's the bat! Drive! Drive! Jeez, he's coming after us! For it! Come on, get us out of here! Streets all to ourselves.
You can stay loyal to Riddler, or you can...
Whatever you want. Seen that anarchy guy? That kid'd love this.